5:30. I believe that's when we're scheduled to start, so let's get it started. Those who would like to join me in the pledge of allegiance, please do so. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Call the meeting to order. And Rebecca, if you'll take roll.
Mayor Smith.
Present.
Alder Billiard. Present. Alder Hill.
Present.
Alder King.
Present.
Alder Lancaster.
Present.
Alder Matheson.
Present.
Alder Wilson.
Present.
Vanessa Keene.
Present.
Valerie Simpson.
Present.
Fred Burke.
Present.
Craig Barrett.
Here.
Jason Knight.
Here.
Sam Wood.
She has a meeting in Jeff City tomorrow, so I told her to take the rest of the evening off.
Mayor, we have a quorum.
All right, thank you. I have a section for a public comment. If there's anybody present that would like to make from the public that would like to make a comment, please step forward. Seeing nobody, I'll close that section. Item number 3, overview on parks and funding. Would that be Jason, I assume?
Yes, so essentially, I think kind of the question that we need to ask and understand is what is the objective when it comes to funding the parks department? What layer of funding do we want to engage in? And then how do we want to assure cost recovery for our programs? There's a few different ways we can look at it. We can do it from a strictly financial point of view, where every program is expected to generate enough revenue to cover the costs, or there is a pyramid method, which is widely used and is one that I personally think is the best method, and that is based on assigning a value to each program that encompasses community level of benefit versus individual level of benefit, and then ranking the cost recovery goal for each level based on how we assign that to a community value perspective. In the kind of paperwork that I sent out earlier to kind of talk about that, I kind of did an example of what that pyramid methodology looks like as you apply it to programs. I chose made-up programs. So for example, program 1 would be Family Fun in the Park. It's a high community value program, low return on investment program. The objective of that would be, that's the demonstrating the pyramid method in recreation programming sample. So essentially the program is a free monthly event for everyone in the community to come and enjoy ice cream or music or whatever in the park. It makes no money, but it draws community out. It increases community value in terms of relationships, builds that neighboring effect. The target is just to engage the community. The cost assigned in this make-believe program is $1,000 a month, so $12,000 annually. The return on this program is 0. There is no intended financial return. The return is in the community investment, the getting the neighbors out, building that sense of community, building those relationships with your neighbors, with the community members, with the Parks Department, with the elected officials that are at the events. It is just to build relationships in the community. It also shows off what we have. You invite people to the park, you have a playground, you have a stage. In this make-believe, we have a stage, an amphitheater. We have all of these things we invite the community out to utilize and see and think, oh, we should engage in these programs. The next program is silly. It's a community Quidditch league. The idea of this is it's targeting a group of kids that we don't hit with our traditional sports programs. And we've got the soccer players, we've got the American football players, we have the baseball players, but we don't have the kids that engage in we don't have the kids that engage with those sports So we target them with a Quidditch league, make up our own rules, we have an investment in the program, but the goal is we want to get kids out, we want to start building those team building skills, those engagement skills with younger kids that aren't going to be engaged in a traditional sports program. Maybe they're more bookish, but the skills that they're building are still those relationship skills, still those working together skills. We see this as a good investment on programming, even though it costs us about $800 a run to do it. But the people that we're targeting, there's a high participation rate, there's good feedback, it reaches a group of kids we don't currently reach, and that is the return. Then the third program is going to be at the top of the tier where we're shooting for cost recovery, like total cost recovery and some profit. That's going to be a high intensity boot camp. If your goal is to be Beachbody ready, this is for you, this is your objective, you're paying us to tell you what to do. So the investment to do that is going to be, we charge $2,000, the program costs us $2,000, we charge $3,200, we make $1,200 a session. And why? Why do we do that? Because there's a high demand for specialty fitness. I mean, you think about CrossFit or TRX, those programs that people engage in, and it's a ridiculously expensive way to do work that's not really work, but people want that, so they'll pay for it. And this objective is we're delivering an individual outcome to an individual person. So we're not trying to build community, we're not trying to build relationships, we're just trying to build revenue and offset the cost of some of the programs that don't necessarily generate revenue. So those are the kind of the three tiers. I didn't single everyone out financially, but essentially the goal is to demonstrate that not all the value of a Parks Department is strictly dollars and cents, cash on the bullhead or the bulwark. Some of it is we do some programs we know we're going to take a loss on because people love them, or people will engage with them, or they have community value beyond the dollar. So that's kind of the profit model that I think Parks and Rec services are intended for. We have some high cost, high revenue programs, we have some low cost, low revenue programs, we have some somewhere in the middle, and we try to target as broad a spectrum of the community as we can. So we get the people who are only interested in being super fit, we get the people who are only interested in eating ice cream in the shade and listening to a bluegrass band, and we get the people who are only interested in reading a book and then maybe reenacting some of the silly scenes from this book by participating in a community Quidditch league. And so that's kind of we want to cast as wide a net as possible to serve as broad a group as possible with the programs, because not everyone is an athlete, not everyone is a bookworm, not everyone is a fitness buff, not every one person is everything. So we want to cast that broad net and try to hit everybody and engage where they are. So, so that's kind of the per program finance model that I would recommend. I recognize that resources are not unlimited, so that there needs to be some kind of rails put on that, and then we can't just say all of our programs are going to be community. All of our programs are going to be Freedom Fest. Starting today, we're only doing Freedom Fest, so we're going to do one a month. That's not a sustainable model. But also there are some of those programs that those programs have value beyond the revenue that they return. So, and that's my perspective on the per program finance model. I'm not the driver of the work study, so I welcome feedback and whatever comment there is on that.
Are these just, okay, it's a silly question. Are these just examples, or are these already things that you're wanting to do?
These are just examples.
Okay.
I mean, if you said these are great ideas, you should do them, I probably, I wasn't trying to talk about all of them, but, no, these are just examples that are just like, pick a silly idea, go with it, because, you know, I have no emotional attachment to any of these programs. Are you wanting me to put together the footage lead? Is that what you want?
I mean, I actually like all three, I think they're great, but I also believe in balance, and so I do think that you need to have a balance of all three. You know, you can't just do all tier ones, like you said,
Right.
but also, yeah, there's definitely got to be balance.
Anybody else on that section? Now we move on to,
Have you tried that Elite Fit boot camp before?
Not in this iteration, we do have some fitness classes, we have had specifically targeted fitness classes that are at a high level. In our community, they did not generate the revenue we hoped because our community didn't participate at the level. So we had a fitness boot camp program that was like flipping tires and doing burpees and carrying sandbags around. And it was a popular program with the 6 people that came to it every Tuesday, Thursday, but only 6 people came to it every Tuesday, Thursday.
So this is not something you have or have shown
That is
be
not, that specific program we
successful, yeah.
have not had success with.
Do you have any ideas as what would work? Like, have you?
You know, we did put out the survey I mentioned at the park board meeting last week. We've gotten 66 responses on the survey for what, not everyone has given feedback on what programs they would like to see. And not every person that gave feedback should have a program created for them because they said, I want this program. Really, the most effective way for us to do programs is to do a program, trial run it, and find out people don't like this. And then we stop doing it. And then we find out, well, people would have liked this if they'd only known about it, but we only ran it for 1 session or 6 weeks, and they didn't know about it because all of their friends didn't talk about it at the same time. But by that point, we pulled the plug on the program and it didn't resurface. So there are several programs that are cyclical like that. We'll do a Pilates class for a while, and then people will kind of burn out of the Pilates class and numbers will drop, and we'll stop offering a Pilates class, and then it'll be back by popular demand when 15 or 20 people are like, I remember we used to have a Pilates class. I went to it. I would do that again.
Do you find that that's a seasonal, like, okay, it's winter, I can't get out, let me do those programs during that time, that perhaps you could plan ahead to say, hey, we're gonna have our annual Pilates class starting?
Yes, so we do see some seasonal stuff, for us specifically, our programs do really well during the school year because we provide childcare. Then after the school year is over, those programs kind of taper off because we're not just providing childcare for the 2 kids that are preschool aged. Now they're trying to find childcare for the preschool aged and the 1st grader, the 3rd grader, the 4th grader. And the camp program is not where they want to, because they're like, well, I'm going to be home, so I don't want to send my kid to camp. I just want 2 hours of babysitting for this kid, but it's not really a good fit for them. So we do see those taper off in the summer, and then they resurge in the fall for our fitness classes. Our sports program, like our adult sports, did really well for a long time, and then all of a sudden, the bottom just fell completely out, and we went from having 8 or 12 adult volleyball teams to having like 4 volleyball teams, and it was like fall season, 12 teams, spring season, 4 teams, fall season, no teams. And I don't know if that is because other options became available. Springfield has an indoor sand volleyball, and Ozark has a volleyball, and Republic does, I think Republic does an adult volleyball. So like seeing those, there are some programs that I recommend we avoid because the level of competition far exceeds the level of maturity. Adult men's basketball is one that I say no, because one, you need really well qualified officials to run that program. You need to have MSHA certified officials. MSHA certified officials won't work for $15 a game, especially when you've got 40-year-old men who think they're still D1 players shouting at them about how they're idiots. So that program has, we'll let other parks programs run that just for the safety of our staff. But yeah, there definitely are some cycles that we see go through, and we try to hit those cycles. We also kind of have the steadfast group that is really wanting this to be a year-round program, and we drop it when our numbers go away. They don't come back because they find somewhere else to do it, and they stay there because it's consistent programming. That we kind of see that a little bit with some of our fitness programs that are even through the winter where we have high participation, but if we have an instructor call in sick 2 or 3 times over the course of 6 weeks, what we see is people are like, I can't count on there to be a fitness program when I have my fitness time scheduled, so I'm going to go somewhere else. I don't know if that answered your question or not.
What about accommodating for the kids? You said there's summer camp and then there's parents who only need 2 hours. What if they go to camp for 2 hours and you charge a certain amount?
So we have a kid zone at the rec center that covers childcare. It's included in your membership. It's just that a lot of the parents don't want to put their kids in there because it's geared more toward the preschool age kids. So the fun factor is
Actually,
for
a
those
second
kids.
grader is too old for a preschool program.
Yeah. So we do have drop-in days that are available at the summer camp program. Staffing for a 2-hour window is a little bit tougher because most of our staff don't only want to work 2 hours, especially during the summer.
Anything else for that section? If not, we'll move on to section 4, the oversight discussion.
So on this one, I put some questions together, really hopefully to elicit some thought ahead of the meeting, and I'll probably just go through those verbatim just to maybe get the discussion going. But really what we want to explore, and going back to the discussion in Monday meeting and with Valerie, is how do we expand from just a kind of a recommendation body to having some level of oversight and input before it reaches the board. And as a caveat, I mean, you will remain with the ultimate authority whatever we decide. So I mean, they can have increased oversight and whatever role you dictate, but recommendations still will come to the board for final approval. So just because they say we're going to do this program, if it comes to you guys and go, no, we're not going to do that, then that is the opposite. So don't think that anything in the discussion would kind of usurp that role. So what I'm hoping to do is we'll go through these questions, maybe have some discussions together, and I'm going to sit here and type as furiously as I can to capture kind of the essence of what we're talking about, create an ordinance and some guidance for further discussion. It's finalized, so I mean we're not looking for an ultimate outcome for this evening, and then also kind of give me a chance to get Holly's input on it before it gets to you guys again. You did, as a reminder, say the planning and zoning model was something you kind of wanted to see replicated, and it may be that simple that, we try to figure out in our chat what makes that work and how we can make that model work with the Parks Board. Of course, they're here as well to participate, and they can tell you kind of what level of input they would like to see as well. But I think it's just kind of bridging the two gaps. I think we see opportunity for some kind of program evaluation style, recommendation style. I think from the board's perspective, they want to know that you guys have an opportunity to hear their input, and I think that comes maybe through a recommendation style like Mike does with planning and zoning. He'll make a presentation, the planning and zoning committee input through his delivery, and then that gives you that extra angle to deliberate on that you discussed as well. So it may be that simple, but I'll lead through the exercise, and if we think we've got to a point that makes sense, I'll shut up and I'll get out of the way, and I'll get something written up and get it back to you as soon as I can. So on here, one of my question sections was about purpose and intent of expanded oversight, and trying to home in on what the desired goals are. How are we going to shift? What do we want from the outcome? How do we want that to look for both the park side and the board side? And then some of the challenges and inefficiencies we hope to resolve, and then how we can use that to support long-term planning, budgeting, program monitoring, and accountability, which I think have come up a lot in the discussions. Making sure that these things are getting the bang for the buck, they're getting well vetted, they're getting well monitored. Maybe we have a program, for example, that we don't feel is working, but the board says, well, we've just started it, we think it has promise, let's give it so many seasons, and here's our recommendation, and then you kind of look at it on that merit, instead of, this thing's a disaster, make it go away. So give some of that feedback, and then conversely, they say, look, we've done this program, we know you guys like to give it about 3 seasons, we think this thing is DOA, let's kill it. And you guys say, yeah, So it gives you kind of that two-way, I hope, feedback. So in that, what do the two boards think some of this purpose and intent of the oversight will kind of deliver if we can get it balled up just right?
I'd like to hear from the Parks Board, each one individually. If you want to start, Vanessa. Give it. Let's start to the left and move to the right. My left, that is.
Provide some context of what we're wanting to do.
What we're wanting,
What we're wanting to see.
I'll go ahead and start. I always feel like Jason, and I love Jason to death. He's one of the best park directors we've ever had. But I also feel left out. No, it's not brought to us in advance. It's always after the fact. When we did this program, blah, 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 this is the breakdown, which he does provide us with breakdowns, so we do look at those. But I always feel like we're the last person he wants to talk to. Okay? And that's not being nice, because I do love Jason. He's a great park director. So in this no reflection on him, I feel like he doesn't, his most important goal is to satisfy you guys, not us. You guys are the important ones, and we're not that important. So that's how I feel about it. And he makes good points, yes, but we don't see the budget until after the budget's done. We don't see a lot of things until it's after the fact. And I would like to have it brought to us before, so you actually will know that we did look at it. So that's how I feel. Are you still working? You got to say
I'm still
something.
working. No,
And she's the newest one on the board, so
Yes.
she's coming in with different eyes. I've sat on this board 25 years, so, and I've seen a lot of changes in those times, so.
yeah, I've only been on the board since November or October, something like that. And what I see is, I honestly felt like this was a huge waste of time. Like, coming in on Thursday once a month was ridiculous. It was a huge waste of time because we meant nothing, absolutely nothing. We didn't know anything, I felt like whatever advice we gave was not given. I mean, he didn't move forward with it. And so I came to Valerie and I said, why are we here? Like, what are we doing? Like, we're wasting time. So then we went to Wes And I told Wes that I need to matter or leave, one or the other, because it was just too much. So with that in mind, I want you to know that I'm very excited about Jason and the way he gets excited about programs. I mean, he's like, oh my God, we can do this, and I love it because I'm that person. I'm like, let's do it, let's do it. But it's the budget part of it that I question over and over again. My first meeting, I was floored because he spent $1,499 on pizza, and that will haunt me until the day I die.
See, we never saw that. I mean, what I'm saying is, we never saw that in advance.
We didn't see, yeah, well,
We
I
never
was,
saw it in advance, that this is what they're gonna do with the kids, this is the programs they're gonna do, this is the expensive, we never saw any of that.
that's
It's always
my,
after the fact.
that's my example. Every time I complain, it's always that pizza. It's just, there was 20 kids, $14.99. Why? And to boot, it was in Springfield. Spend $14.99 in Willard, bring that economy here. I mean, I don't. So I do have some issues in regards to the budget itself. I feel sometimes that parks is like a kid in a candy store. They discover they can do these things and they hear these things and whatnot, and they just want to go for it. And I understand that because I'm that person. As my husband, I'm that person. I just want to, let's do it. We'll mess with the consequences later. But there has to be a balance. And this is a business. This is not, my friends hanging out trying to come up with something. So that's my concern, the budget.
Fred?
Yeah, so I've actually been really impressed with, Jason over the years, so I would have to say maybe I'm a little bit in the minority.
No, we love
but-
Jason.
Yeah,
We love Jason.
he's great. I mean, he's super smart. He's always on top of everything. You ask him something and he's got the answer, or he'll find out. So I'm not gonna say anything about that. I feel like sometimes the items that we bring to him maybe aren't treated seriously, or maybe there aren't enough resources to address it. Probably just one example for me is I have a couple of kids who play soccer, and over at the soccer fields, there's some old equipment that came from Jackson Street Park. And I've asked Jason a couple times to have it, just dig a couple holes and actually anchor them, because kids will go in there and they'll crawl all over them, and it's just an accident waiting to happen. And so far, it hasn't been addressed, but, it's probably something that's on his list, but, it's just little stuff like that sometimes. Maybe we just feel like we aren't being heard. So.
Craig?
Second pretty much everything that's been said. Question for you guys, this is an advisory board. I'm not sure, according to, I think Valerie, this board got started before we even had a park director. So is that
It
right?
was the administrative board.
So, part of the original function of the board was maybe to serve some of these purposes. But, question for you guys, do we even need a parks board as an advisory board, or do we need something else? Or, if we are gonna be in a board, then maybe we need to do.
Yeah, by ordinance, we have a board and duties established.
I know there's an ordinance that established.
Yeah, it talks
the board.
about budgeting
Yep.
and what the board's responsibilities and roles are.
So I think, just some clear outlines of what we need to do as a board if we're gonna have a parks board,
Yeah,
which I
absolutely.
would recommend that we do.
And that's my question for all of you is, in terms of oversight, do you, number one, obviously there's a communication issue, but that's easily solved with a couple of internal policies and adjustments to the model. That's not complicated at all. Question is, do you want oversight, and if so, how much? Have you guys thought about that?
I think we probably would like to see what kind of oversight you want, or give us some examples of how much you want us to do.
I don't know what the P and Z model really is, other than just kind of general terms that might come to you guys with.
I think what solves the
recommendations.
problem, I mean, from what you guys have already discussed, and when we look at the P and Z model, if you will, it's really just a matter of, hierarchy. That, things go through you guys first, just like a P and Z. First, whenever I get a question from someone, a citizen that says, hey, I wanna, move my playground set, first question I ask is, have you talked to Mike, have you been to P and Z? Because they're already wanting to jump that and come to us. I'm like, no, we have a chain of command, if you will. So it's really just as simple as, you guys working with the Parks Board, because obviously, the Parks Department, because you're the Parks Board, and then before anything gets to us, you've already vetted it. I like that model because I believe that 100 eyes are better than 20. That's why you guys are there, and that's why you're volunteering, and you're giving your time, and you're giving your effort. It's unfortunate that, number one, we're here hearing about how you don't feel appreciated or even included. But hopefully we can get that rectified moving pronto.
And I think an example, I'm gonna make something up, and for the record, this is not anything to support it, I'm just gonna make something completely wild up, but let's say Mike one day decided, he was gonna handle, like rental standards, and he's like, I want all landlords to have a special license and get something from the health department, and it's just something completely off the wall, so. He writes a policy down, and then he brings it to planning and zoning, and he says, okay guys, this is my rental idea that I've had, and then it gets vetted, and most likely they go, well, this is a little crazy. So they get some feedback, and maybe we take this out, maybe we take that out, and then Mike goes back, makes some adjustments, brings it back. How about this, guys? Is this sounding, well, it's getting better, but, and so on and so forth. And then eventually, it gets to a point where, and there may be a public hearing on their case, but probably not likely for the Parks Board, but it'll get to a point where it's ready to bring to the board and say, we vetted this, these are the policies, this is the ordinance, this is the recommendation from, staff and planning and zoning, and then the board can deliberate on that and
That's
make
what
a
I thought
decision.
the
And there have been
Board
times in an instance like that where the board says, well, we think that it should actually sound more like this.
Yeah,
And Mike will then take it back to planning and zoning, and they go over it and make those changes, discuss it, and then they bring it back, and then the board says, that sounds great.
Yeah.
Done.
That's what I thought the park board was when I joined. That's what I thought I was gonna be a part of.
so I'm thinking, just in general discussions, that's the model that I think the board is favoring, and I think, will it work exactly like that for you guys, since Jason's not really crafting ordinances and regulations, but maybe some sort of model like that, you're part of that, and then the board on the other side then goes, okay, what is the board's recommendation? What do you think? Maybe you've got something kind of off the wall, and Jason says, well, the board recommends this, but my immediate thought is, I don't know. It just becomes part of that deliberation process that the board can say, well, the board thinks it's a great idea, Jason thinks this is kind of scary, or vice versa. What do we think? And like Casey says, then come back and maybe we can tread a middle path and send it back to you guys with some additional consideration, or just completely nix it and say, no, we think it's not good, or we think it's great, or somewhere in the middle. So that's kind of the model I'm understanding we're looking for, that will probably work. And really between you guys, if you can figure out what you think will work on both sides of the spectrum, I can craft something that will lay it out. So don't worry about the rules and roles. We can certainly figure that out. Just be creative in what you
Can
want.
I ask a question?
Well, I was gonna add, I'm a big fan of Jason, and I don't wanna micromanage him or staff to the point where we cause a problem on his end.
Sure.
So, maybe we lay it out in terms of, programs, budget, whatever specific items that you guys think we need to review with
And
our
I think that's
agreement.
an important
And
thing
then kind of
to
lay
consider.
that out
Yeah.
and go from there.
Because that's something that planning and zoning also doesn't do. They're not micromanaging Mike either. There's things
I
he's
think
doing
it's
that
the
are
big
doing
higher
that
level
admin.
type things,
Right,
right?
Mhm, mhm.
No, I agree, that's the last thing we want to do is micromanage him. but I do
Jason,
like
here's
the
your
idea.
tickets for the day. I'm totally
Tell we love them. But I like the idea of setting it up kind of like P and Z, because I know how that one works, which is it's brought to the board, we discuss it. So right now, things are just, we're after the fact, we need to do before the fact.
Right.
And that's all I really want to see.
So can I ask you
Good changes.
guys, the board, a question? So
Sure.
where do you want Jason to come to us for stuff? Do you want programs approved? Do you want financial purchases approved before they're made?
I would like to see.
Where do we draw those
I
lines?
would like to see the budget in its process.
Okay.
I'm not going to have to come get permission to spend money, because you guys take care of that part of it. But I want to see the budget when it's in process, so we can make recommendations.
Yeah,
I think-
Okay,
I think it's the ordinance reads the.
It is,
park
but we
board
never,
zones.
we see it on a monthly basis, Jason, but we never see it when it's in the process of being built, right?
Okay, so the question I have is, when the budget is being built, which is essentially just a recycle of last year's budget with a couple of changes, there are 6 months before the budget becomes
That's
it.
right,
You can make recommendations, and I
right.
don't know that I've
I'd like to see it,
received
because
those.
a lot of times when you're setting up the budget, you're looking at, possibly 4 years behind, sometimes you're looking 4 years ahead. But it's not, you don't just look at just last year's budget, it's usually 3 or 4 years you're looking at a time. I know, I've looked at the budget many times years ago, not for a few years.
That would be a procedural deal for you guys
Yeah.
to work out at some point. And
And just,
Jason obviously
when
look
you
at
guys
a
are
calendar and say, this is
bring it in,
when,
we can
Wes
make-
starts looking at things, and then, but he needs to be working with you prior to build it up.
Or along with.
Yes,
So
exactly.
That's fine.
Do you
along
just
with.
want visibility to it, or do you want?
Visibility to it.
You don't want to make the decisions on
No, he's got the final decision, but we can make.
You guys will have input.
We can make recommendations.
But when you're working on the budget, that also though, it has to do with the programming side of things as well. Because every one of those programs comes with I don't wanna say a funding, but it is a funding of what that cost is going to be for that program.
That's
And
right.
so this is where the board comes into play with you guys being able to say, before it comes to us even, well, I don't know if this is viable or necessary, or hey, can we look at maybe doing this program because I think it might cost us a little less, or maybe our return on it for, say, the community, to, for example, like the tier 1 type thing, this might be a better benefit for our community, even though it might cost us a little bit more. This is something that we might want to look at. That's a park board type function, so then you guys work as a unit before it even hits the big ticket budget for us. So that then Jason is able to sell it, like, hey, we worked on this as a park board, we worked on it, this is what we're trying to put into play for next year.
Right.
But traditionally, we don't even, it's already done. It's already done and it's to you guys.
So what we're
And
we're gonna
trying
change
to
that.
work
That's
on
what
is
this
making
is
it
about.
better teamwork.
We're gonna change that.
Right, that's what I'd like to see change.
And I mean, everybody knows, as soon as Jason steps up, automatically in my head is this program going to cover its cost? Unfortunately, we have been dealt the hand of our forefathers. We have a pool, we have a rec center that we couldn't afford. We're stuck here now to make that payment. I had asked for budget information since I took this seat. We just recently got it a month or so ago. Seeing me as a taxpayer, and from what I have researched, tax revenue that goes to the park board should be allocated to pay the COP, should be allocated to pay for maintenance on the rec center, maintenance on the pool. And that budget was presented to us that tax revenue was used for salaries for all these programs that we keep adding. Well, quit adding the programs and we got plenty of money to take care of the pool and the rec center. We got money for maintenance, but we keep adding programs and allocating revenue that way. I believe that if you don't look at history, you keep making mistakes. So I am still going, until the next audit is done, whether it's this one, I'm gonna stand on the previous audit. And I printed out a copy of it. The previous audit says that anytime money is transferred to the park board, it's a loan, and it's supposed to be tracked as such. It's not. It also says that the board was not presented accurate information. We are not. When I asked Jason, is this covering its cost? And he tells me yes, and it doesn't. I voted based on trusting someone telling me it covered its cost. So that's what my goal for you guys would be is, does this program cover its cost? If we are running as an example, and I just think it's a small number, and I'm not saying we gotta nix this program, but as an example, I said, how many people are playing baseball and what is it costing us? We have 120 kids from PK 5-6-year-old kids to 12-year-olds. That ain't very many kids, and we're spending money to maintain the fields, we're paying all these things, and so, no, it's a losing process unless we raise the rates. I personally don't have time to look at every program, and I would hope that there is a better budgeted process in that, because I do multiple audits with the state every year. I got Department of Health and Senior Services, I have Department of Department of Elementary and Secondary Education. If I have a finding 1 year on one thing, I am not gonna have that same finding ever again. Because that was them telling me I need to make a correction. That is going to be my goal, is to never have a repeat finding. I fear we're gonna have a repeat finding. And when I look at the state auditor's report, it lists every alderman that's on the board at the time. I don't want my name on the report of a repeat finding. That is why I get so passionate and upset about it, because it just seems like we continue to add programs and we justify the tax revenues paying for the people because they work for the city. But from what I understand with tax revenues and parks and different fundings, that tax revenue, we've got to know that we have to pay. We might, I mean, at our house, we don't go to Disney World if our tires are bald. And that's just my perspective. So y'all can, I'll get off my soapbox for a few minutes until I need to get back on it.
Out of curiosity, how many programs do we have that are neutral? And how many do we have that cost us? And how many do we make money?
Well, that's a
really
great
address
question.
the question.
And to address the question, I think the question has to be answered. Are the workers paid by the taxes, or are the workers paid by the program? For example, Freedom Fest, are we paying for that based on the revenue of the program, or are we paying that based on the revenue of the taxes? Because Freedom Fest will not collect enough revenue to offset the cost. So as that program is fully funded by the taxes. There's some revenue offset as we charge vendor fees, some revenue offset as we charge for parking and water melting contests. Some of that is offset by those things. There's not a clear tool in place to decide which programs we just elect as our fully tax funded and which programs we elect are partially tax funded and which programs we, that's kind of the reason that I proposed the pyramid model. But also looking at that from the perspective of if the taxpayers are funding parks services, some of those services include staff time, because mowing and maintenance will never, ever, ever generate a revenue. So at least those personnel are being funded solely by the taxation of the community. So when we establish some of our programs we're okay saying are tax funded and some of our programs we're not okay saying are tax funded, without a clear delineation of which programs we do say staff time is tax funded, we can't clearly say which programs are revenue neutral, revenue positive, or revenue negative, because we don't have a good metric to measure that. So, there are some programs, if you take out all tax funding, definitely losses. The Aquatic Center, most of the rec center operations are losses.
But those are your two places that your tax funding should be taken care of because
Correct.
we've got a note on those and the taxpayers are on the hook, so to
Correct.
speak.
So, they're on the hook for the facilities, but not the programs. So swim lessons, are those lessons, are they being funded by taxpayers, or is only the note and utilities on the pool being funded? The operational costs are the personnel running the facility, so it seems to me that those personnel should be accounted for by taxpayer dollars, but if they aren't, then the pool's an even bigger hole, because the programming that we do at the pool doesn't cover its own costs.
From what I understand with the COP on that, we are required by the law to have that pool open and functioning
Correct.
as long as you have a COP on it.
Correct.
So therefore, that would be why you would justify that we have to use tax dollar, we have to keep the pool open, we don't have a choice.
Okay.
That's what I'm saying, we're paying the price of our forefathers.
So, the rec center,
Another
any
one.
programs that take place at the rec center, those programs are funded by taxpayers? The staff, the personnel of those programs funded by taxpayers?
Well, it depends on how many programs we're gonna add to the rec center so that we can have programs, so to speak.
Taking place at the rec center, just under the roof of the rec center to help keep the doors open, help pay the COP.
Ideally, I would say that you would need to have programs that would help generate to help pay for the rec center, and that's what I'm saying. So if you justify, I'm gonna have, let's say, Pee Wee Ballet. I'm gonna pay somebody $200 to come in and teach 5 kids. No, that's not, in my opinion, it shouldn't be justified to pay it that way.
Okay.
You still have to evaluate the program, is it
Correct, yeah.
costing? Now, if you have to have staff there in any way, then you're not hiring that's where you kind of draw me off, is we have to hire additional people
Sure.
to have the program, and so then, no, that program really shouldn't be offset by tax dollars.
So-
Because you're having to hire someone to
Agreed.
do that program.
So the facility empty is a better turnaround than the facility with people in it, but taking a loss on a program.
So if I give you, and I believe you told me you have like I could be wrong, but like a 1% maintenance for your rec center, or whatever the percentage
Yeah.
was, it was ridiculous.
Yeah.
So if I tell you that you have $10,000 to spend on keeping the rec center maintained, and you say, okay, well, I'm gonna run this program and it's gonna cost me 5 of that 10, don't complain about not having 10,000 to maintain the building. So your empty building might be a little better off because then you at least have $10,000 to maintain it.
That checks. But then I asked the question about service to the community. If there's no one using the facility, what is the purpose of the facility? So yes, it's great, it's beautiful, but there's never anyone in it because we don't have any programs, because we don't have any money to pay staff, because we don't have programs that
Well,
generate revenue.
Then you just don't get your roof fixed.
That's
I mean,
where-
that's where you complain to me.
Yeah.
You just don't get your roof fixed, dude. I mean, we only have so much money.
You have to find the free things for people to like. You gotta be in that top tier or whatever that you were talking about. You gotta bring the community together with free things and
Movie night.
very low cost things, because that's what you can afford.
Right,
You can't
so,
afford more than that.
agreed, yeah, go.
Does that gym have the capacity to do free popcorn, charge for hot dogs, and do movie nights?
Movie night?
So the thing with movie nights is that you have to purchase the rights to show a movie, which
Okay.
range from, yeah, so.
And that's a
that-
cost.
That's a cost,
Big
and
cost.
they're significant, so, unless, Holly, plug your ears, there's not really a good way to do a movie night, because we don't have the capacity to purchase the rights to show a movie.
What if it's on a streaming platform? How does that work?
Can't do that.
You
Can't do
can?
that.
Really? Okay.
Yeah.
We used to do a movie in the park night.
We've done some movie nights.
We've done some movies, been
Some of them
years.
were well attended and some of them were not.
Yeah, they'll have terms and conditions that tell you it's
Now
not
we had
mass.
it right over there, mile 6.
What about
We've
game
got
night?
big
It doesn't
audience.
have to be a movie, just something of that nature.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, you can have a game night.
Or a game night, or, yeah.
Yeah, bingo or Monopoly or
Mhm.
Bunko or.
Aren't they doing that over at mile 6? They're
So-
getting times.
yes, I don't intend to shoot anything down, but I do wanna say, like, everything we do does have a personnel cost, because
Yes.
once, you know,
There's a cost.
I use adult basketball because adult men playing basketball are ridiculous. That's just the demographic that is. But like any program that we do, there will be some level of monitoring that's needed, and any extra people we put in require extra people to
But I think
monitor.
what Joyce is saying
Yeah.
is out of your $10,000, if you do a game night and you still have to pay your people, it's gonna be $2,000 and not $5,000. That's what she's saying. Yeah. Not to mention, if you're lucky, somehow you might get back some of that 2,000 by selling hot dogs or something, you know?
Bingo night's money making thing.
So I'm gonna just kind of jump in, because I think that's a great seg into what we're kind of talking about as far as the oversight. I don't want us to necessarily get too far off into the budgetary side. Although obviously if I'm overruled, that's fine, but let's focus on the oversight piece. What do we want? So to me, I'm already hearing budgetary oversight. Let's make sure we're giving that a good shake and we all understand what's going on. Money's being spent wisely, so I think I've captured that for sure. But what other roles do we think that the Parks Board needs to have to help improve and enhance some of the communications, the programming review? It sounds like we need, maybe a programmatic review, so that when you guys get a recommended budget, now the question is, okay, so the Parks Board looked at this, what do they think? Have they maybe stripped out some of the programs that we think are just lost, versus some of the programs that maybe are lost but are a beneficial loss? So I'll bake that in, but what other things?
These can be goals and objectives, strategic planning that you guys are a part of, because what I like about that is that gives Jason clear marching orders that if you guys create in collaboration with staff, goals and objectives for short-term, long-term, strategic planning, etc., that when Jason develops programs, he can tie them directly to those goals. So there should be no argument or no consternation about why we're having 5th grade soccer when Jason brings it forward, because that's what the board wanted, the Parks Board wanted, and it's tied to the long-term goal of creating the next USA soccer team. Because, and he's off the hook, and the board can share in the successes and failures of the program.
I like that. I really want that. I mean, even if I'm way wide of a target, if I have a target to shoot at, I would want that target. I feel like it needs to be it feels like SMART goals, specific, measurable, achievable, whatever, all this stuff. Like, I want that, but I also, on the backside of that, want to know what success looks like. So, let's game night. Everyone bring your Scrabble boards. We're having a Scrabble tournament. It's $5 to get in. At the end of the night, we've got 4 people that play Scrabble. We $20. I have a Scrabble attendant there to keep the score and say, Tweedle is not an appropriate and accepted word in this particular.
Sign me up for that role.
So there is a cost associated with it. We've charged $20, we've made $20, we've got 2 hours of labor at $13 an hour, we lost $6.
I will referee that game for free.
We've now made $20. So is that a success? Not specifically that, but what does success look like? What level of participation, you know, if we've got 25 tables and our goal is to fill up all 25 tables with 4 players each, you know, 100 participants, are we gonna be satisfied if we have 4 players? And if we only have 4 players, is that something that we say, do it again? And how many times do we lose that $6 a night before we go, this is a failed effort, there are not enough scrabblers in Willard to make this work. But knowing beforehand that if I have 4 people, I don't just go, Scrabble's out.
I'll throw that back to you guys. That's what you guys decide.
And then I said, if you pre-register, I mean, you have a set point of when is something not worth doing.
That's some guidance that I have there too.
And so you set a pre-registration, and I mean, I've signed up for things before when, when enough people signed up, so sorry, we're not doing this. I mean, I've done that before.
Yeah.
But I
Also,
think that's something that can be set up when you guys are when you're making your plans, that the board can say from the get-go, you know what, if we try something 3 times and it fails,
yeah, and that's.
wipe it off the board and don't do it anymore, you know?
That's the feedback that I'd like.
So-
Along that note, kind of parallel to that, and we'll get to that when we get to the survey. Some of the survey feedback we've had is, we sign up for programs and you cancel them. And it's great that we've got our money back, but we've missed opportunities other places. So with that bit of
That's
feedback.
life, unfortunately.
Yeah. So, but it's primarily related to sports. Like I signed my kid up for 5th grade soccer, you only had enough kids for 4 teams, and my kid played the same team 3 times. But I missed my opportunity to play in the Republic. I missed my opportunity to play in Springfield. And so now we haven't just taken $50, you know, 20 times $1,000. We haven't just taken $1,000 off the table for this program. We've taken $1,000 off the table for every season of that program, because those kids aren't coming back because they lost that opportunity. Is it a wiser long-term investment? And this is a question for the board to tell me what the answer is. To take that loss, keep those kids in Willard instead of sending them to Republic, or
But
do we just
how
send those
hard
kids
did
to
you try to
Republic?
keep them there in Willard? Like,
You had the
did you
program.
email them and say, look, when, you know, the game is coming up in a week and we only have 3 players. Do you have friends? Do you have opportunities? Are you on the Willard page, Facebook page saying, come on guys, we only have 4 people signed up. We really hate to, you know, have to cancel this program. I haven't seen anything like that. We need, you know, you need to get it out there, and if you need us to get it out there, just say so. Make a phone call, email, text.
So we have all of the players that we've ever had, we have their email addresses, and we email out, and we email out, and we email out these opportunities. And then when registration deadline is nearing, we email out and say, invite your friends. We email out and we say, and we're doing that through the organic channel that we have of like, this kid plays soccer, knows other kids that play soccer, get your kids to sign up. And same with coaches, we'll say, we don't have enough coaches, do you know someone who can coach? If you know someone who can coach, we'll let you register for free to coach, and we still fall short of getting the coaches and getting the players.
I still think you need to go
Some of
to
that-
the teams.
That sounds to me like you're answering your own question, that if the people are
It just sounds like there
interested.
needs to be a marketing component. And we have the staff for that, to get on the different Facebook sites and just do marketing. If we have to throw some money at marketing, like some Joyce, you know, maybe we can take a wee bit of money from some chlorine from the pool or something, and maybe have a small marketing budget.
Hey, last year I paid for kids to swim, so you know what?
So-
I made a contribution there.
So there, I know there's the bit of maybe we should go to team registration like other communities do. That is a double-edged sword, because you have a kid, has played on the same team for 10 years. The rando other 5 kids that sign up just get wiped, and they do not want to play
Here's the
basketball.
thing is, you only say, like, so Willard Club, you just say, I want your C team, or your B team. You cannot sign up your A team, you know what I'm saying?
I do, yeah.
So that's what we do, like, we send our B team to a public sport, if you have that here.
Yeah.
And even with the, baseball, I have several friends that do the little outside the communities, and they go to each of the communities, and like, why can't we do something like that? Where we have the other communities even coming in and using our facilities.
You don't have any, I've said that a million times. Get with the other communities, work these things out.
Ash Grove and Walnut Grove. Walnut Grove has no, nothing. At least Ash Grove has a park.
And this is a great example of something that could go through the vetting process, and in Jason's presentation says, the board says it's a great idea. I think it's a terrible idea because, what do you guys think? And then we get that direction. So this is an unintentional example of what
It
could
alleviates the phone, well, it doesn't alleviate the phone calls to me, but it gives me somebody else's number to give them, because I get those calls.
They call me, I don't care, call me.
I cannot believe that you have a team signed up that should be playing in a competitive league, and they're demoralizing our kids. And Rachel, your B team, your C team is still going to demoralize the rest of the league because they've played on a team who has a coach that has committed time to it and is not just,
A parent.
yeah, I'll coach
who
for a free
shows up.
t-shirt, yeah, and is like watching YouTube videos on the sidelines saying,
As a
okay.
parent coach who
Yeah.
coached baseball one year and
Yes.
has never played baseball or softball, I can relate to
Yeah.
that.
So,
And what's the
Wait,
teach-
you're
what's
supposed to
that
run
teach you?
but it does give me that opportunity to say, I hear your feedback, I understand your frustration, and then I give them Valerie's number, or I give them Joyce's
You
number, or
never
I give them
have that.
Jeremy's number, and say,
Okay.
this is what has been directed, we need to increase enrollment, and we're gonna get those kids that are like, right, so I'm never playing sports in Willard again because my kid just cried after every game. And like, that, I mean, it happens, sometimes you lose, sometimes you cry. But
you win,
it gives
sometimes
me,
you lose.
it gives me some overhead to be able to say like, yeah, I know it's not ideal, and also, Rachel will tell you it's part of life.
I will.
Well, the marketing is just one good example where you have some people that are really good at social media, that you guys, when you get together and you talk about, next year's short-term strategic planning, that you guys can all put your minds together and say, this is what our marketing plan is gonna look like this year. Social marketing, if you're doing print stuff, whatever, that's a great opportunity for one subject that you guys all work on.
And to be fair, Parks has been putting more out there, there's been stuff in the bills, and they've been putting notifications on the app and stuff, so
Sending stuff home to
they
kids
have
at school.
taken that challenge on.
But put your marketing plan together.
Yeah.
There you go, all right, the schools, which schools, middle school, grade school, high school, where you gotta go.
Did you guys used to put like stuff in our kids?
Yes. When my kids were little, we've got stuff that came home.
Through the school.
Yeah, I feel like before COVID.
Yeah.
Do they still?
We have started again, the school admin office has said, we need one flyer per school, we'll post it.
Are they trying to get away from Uber?
I don't know what their objective is, but I know that what they have told us is, yeah, the classroom teachers don't really want to do that. We went ahead and
So can they
sent,
put it on the email that they send out? Because
So
I know they
we
send out like the
have-
school.
we have a permanent banner on the school email. It's the first non-school item, it's like after the first paragraph, we have a permanent banner email that links to stuff.
I overlook that.
Everyone overlooks that.
Yeah, because it just kind of blends in with the, I read it twice now.
I mean, advertising, we can advertise and advertise and advertise, but if people don't click the links, if people don't share the Facebook posts, our reach is limited by Facebook's algorithm. I know that many people in this room have seen our post and done nothing. they don't like it, they don't share it, they don't comment on it, and that keeps it low in the algorithm. I know that. I look, when I see one of these posts come up, I click on the likes and see who has liked it. And I see like 7 or 9 people, depending on the post. More, many posts, much less, which is, I get it, some people have their own businesses, they don't want to ruin their own algorithm by liking and sharing stuff, I get that, Facebook marketing is Facebook marketing, and it's only as effective as Mark lets it be. But when we're doing our marketing, and the people who are invested and engaged don't like or share the posts, they're undermining our marketing efforts. So that's frustrating because I know that there are at least 3 posts a day that go out on our Facebook page. And I bet if I pulled one up right now, there may be 3 likes on it from this room. And maybe you don't all follow, and I try not to be on Facebook because it just makes me angry. But if you're seeing the posts and not engaging with the posts, you're pushing them lower in the algorithm.
For me, that's just a marketing thing, because your posts are boring. They
Can I
don't.
get one?
All right, we don't need to get into the details. You guys can work that out later. You guys work, all right, so am I the only one, or is everybody in agreement? I'm kind of getting the feeling that we got an idea of what your level of oversight would like to be. Sounds like we're all comfortable, and you guys shake your head or
Yeah.
raise your hand. It sounds like we're kind of on the same page.
What I have is, we have a group, and one of our budget items is kids programming, youth programming, and the dollar amount. Or special events and a dollar amount. There's no breakdown in that, so we can actually, how much going to each program.
And I would say, and of course Wes may give a different order, but I would say you guys work that out.
Yeah.
Okay.
If that's what you guys want to do, you guys get together. If you want to break down soccer balls from footballs and the prices.
Don't want to go that far.
Knock
I'm
yourself out.
just like on special programs, because we have, different programs, but when you get to the end of the year, and I know Vanessa's gonna work on Christmas this year, how much money is budgeted for Christmas? It's not, it's in the pool.
It's not.
So that's a small one.
So I think that, just the way the budget's set up, I think that is an area that with oversight, you guys.
We could
offer
do that,
and say,
yeah,
okay,
it wouldn't nestle
the
with yours.
pot is, I don't know, $15,000, so we've got these programs coming up, here's the limit of how much we want you to keep to for each of these programs.
That's what I'm looking at.
Then we've already allocated of our pot, this is for Christmas, this is for Freedom Fest, this is what's left to distribute elsewhere.
Freedom Fest has its own line.
Freedom Fest is special.
It's special, it only
We
has
like
its own
Freedom
line.
In reading this, it says here, if we would like an alderman on the board,
Yeah,
I don't know what.
Chair.
And again, just suggestions, it might, not necessarily, I wasn't trying to put
if they
words in
want to
anybody's
join us,
mouth.
we.
I would love it.
Yeah, sure.
That's my count.
They volunteer.
And you know what,
Volunteer.
and she can come when she wants, she doesn't have, she's not gonna put her as a
Casey's
requirement.
hand in the air.
So someone would like to come and join us, maybe take turns.
With someone that's first name starts with an R, like a
The last
volunteer.
Thursday of the
I
month.
would volunteer.
All right, sounds fantastic.
Last Thursday
We
of
have
the
a
month,
volunteer.
here at 6 o'clock.
Volunteers.
So I do have a question about that, just no offense to you. As the ordinance, and maybe it's not a question, maybe it's just a comment, as the ordinance is currently structured, there are residency parameters that are in place.
What can we do?
Not
I
now.
don't know if you live inside the city or outside the city.
She's in, she has to be, she has to be in.
So you qualify. We do have an open spot currently that was filled by a resident, so that would.
Oh, we do we have another member?
We have.
Troy.
Troy's gone, yeah.
Yes, so we have an open spot that could be.
So, I mean, that's the question, are we talking about an actual board member or just someone that?
Or just somebody who wants to come and visit.
I would
So I mean,
suggest it should be
it's one of those discussion items,
That's it.
Rachel can be there as a representative of the board for feedback, or a member of the board, or however you
How
guys
do you
want to
guys want to
structure it.
do it?
Yeah, I
It
would
could be a
love to,
discussion item, for
I
sure.
would love her to be there to tell us what the board would want to hear with, are we going off track? Do we not keep, Does the board not care what we're talking about at this moment?
I think in one area that it benefits,
Keep this
and we
going.
see this with planning and zoning, is David sits on there and then he's able to come back and kind of can verify what, this has been given a pretty good shape.
Right.
And he's
I
actually
have
a
a vote.
member, he is a member.
So
of
you
the
are a
NSA.
full member as well, so he has.
Right, that's what I would think, is you want somebody to be
Yeah.
a full member of the board,
Yeah,
not just somebody coming to meetings and
And
they
again,
have a
just-
chance,
not leaning either way, but just, it can be
And
powerful.
we can certainly go that way, we just have an ordinance that we have to squash to do that, because the ordinance specifically
Well, we're
says
just
they shall not be a board of
Oh,
aldermen.
it does?
Yeah.
But that's not a big deal, we can squash it.
Oh, okay. So it would need to be.
Yeah, we'll have to just put it on the agenda, if you guys, if that's the route that everybody wants to go, all we have to do is just put it on the
Well,
agenda.
you're gonna have to change the ordinance anyway, right? Because
Yeah.
as an advisory board, it's set up that way right now.
Yep, so, not a big deal. Right, Holly? Just a little more work, not a problem.
Are we typing it up now?
I like it, I like it.
One other thing, since it's gonna be for, what am I trying to say?
Oversight?
Oversight, yeah. My mind moved blank. Attendance,
Attendance,
yeah.
yeah, attendance is
We're gonna have
important.
to enforce something on that. Aren't
Well, we have a hard time enforcing our own attendance, so,
Usually I'm pretty, they try to get there, like tonight we have 2 people are out of town, which seems to be, we had one member that we had, for quite a while that wasn't making meetings, and she told me, she said, if you need me to resign, I will. And then when it got to be a problem, I did have to ask her to resign, because I went back and I looked, she made 1 meeting out of 13 months.
oh my,
That was not good.
that's not.
Let's not do that.
So
Do you have anybody
attendance
else that's
is-
close
is
to that?
important.
Well, to Vanessa's earlier comment, I think that once you guys start playing a more active role in all the processes, I think that will help with not only attendance, but it'll help with engagement and people wanting to be on the board, so they feel like they're not wasting their time.
I know in yours, you can't miss 3 meetings in a row. Is that correct? Is it still set up that
I
way?
don't think that's ever been.
I don't think that's-
If it's in writing, I don't think it's ever been enforced.
They can't make 75% of the meetings.
I was gonna say, if that was the
Because
case.
there's some, I don't remember if it was one of them I had read in the past, and maybe in P&Z, I'm not sure. If you miss 3 meetings in a row, you can be asked to leave.
Because it's an older people.
All right, so
I don't
are we squared away on that subject?
So I have notes, I'm sure Holly has notes, we'll have notes, and we'll go from there.
So the next section I have is discussion of priorities of the community. And was this the section, Jason, that you wanted the alderman to chime in, or?
So, there is a survey, I don't know if any of you have completed it, I don't,
This is here?
I read through the survey, and I just have really one comment about the surveys, because, a lot of the comments you can just throw out that are just odd, people's responses. But I wonder if, and this would kind of be a Joyce question also, is that, and for the board, now that you guys are gonna participate more, it seemed like a recurring theme was, the facilities, especially the bathrooms. I'm sure Jason could probably speak to that ad nauseum. That'd be just one question I'd throw to the board when you guys kind of reformulate and regroup is, would we honestly be better off diminishing programs and throwing more money at facilities? Obviously you don't want to go too far down the spectrum, because like Jason said, we don't want facilities that just stand there and they're monuments and no one's in them. But maybe we want to make the ones we have nicer, but that's, once again for you guys to decide. But that was a recurring theme.
Yes.
Especially the bathrooms not being locked and
I think the
unlocked.
comments were
Yeah.
pretty,
Yeah, that seemed to be what kept coming up. They can't have events because they can't get to the bathrooms and they're not open all the time or when they're there and so on and so forth. But
so, yeah, that was a common theme.
We talked about it the other day, and part of it was that in the wintertime, the pipes that go into the bathroom have to go through the pool area, and it's not, there's no heat on.
That's true.
So there's really no way the water can come into the bathrooms.
Most parks, they close them.
They close their
It's like
bathrooms.
never heard of it.
Yeah, that's true, but I also talked about this the other day, all we need to do is put a sign down those doors that say go to the community building. The community building's open, and they have bathrooms.
It's not typically open.
It's not open.
here's an idea that the chief was here would absolutely kill me. Because of the former agency that I used to work at, we do things like this at like 3 in the morning. But you know, I know it comes to access and you don't wanna call a parks person in at 9 PM to go lock the bathroom door, but there should be a guy or should be a patrolman on duty that can take their key that they have at the police department, drive over there and lock it or unlock it.
So the bathrooms are closed, by the police, in the evenings, and then opened by staff in the mornings, I think it's 7 AM.
What time they lock them at night?
I think 11-ish.
That late, my
The
goodness.
park is open until 11 per the sign at the park. So,
Desk, you should change those to open
that's some good
dusk to
feedback.
dawn.
Now, get ready for this, I'm ready for you to spend a little bit of money.
Everybody pull on their chairs.
With today's technology, could you not have programmed locks on your doors?
So sure, with today's technology and authorization to make the investment, we could.
I mean,
Yes.
If you're paying a police officer to go over there 15 minutes out of his way, and a staff member 15, I mean, you're paying somebody a half hour a day, look at that and see what, I mean, I don't know, I have no idea what they'd cost. If you come back and say, Joyce, these cost $10,000, I'm like, well, I was paying $30
You
today.
already rubber stamped it, Joyce, I heard you
No, I
say.
said, we can evaluate, we just be paying 30 minutes a day.
Do you have Wi-Fi there?
We
And
do
they lock by
have,
default?
we have Wi-Fi there that is radio cast from here, so,
Okay.
yes, so
They
there
default
is a
those?
private Wi-Fi network over there that's
Easier
spread
to send our cops.
Is it dead
all to do anyway.
Right now, we do not have deadbolts. Well, right now, and part of the issue, admittedly, is that it is unclear. There are padlocks on the doors all of the time. Because the lock system that we have, the lock system is a slide lock. However, it always is locked when the bathroom is open so that no random stranger can close the lock and lock you in. So it is locked in the open position. People from the parking lot or from around the corner look and see a lock and assume that it's locked. There are red and green vacant and occupied underneath that lock, so if the red one is covered up, you can see that the green and it's open, and if the green one is covered up, you can see the red and it's closed. It's not ideal. There needs to be an upgrade, especially to the bathrooms at Jackson Street. Agreed.
Take me over and have a look. I've already done it for $300.
Okay.
What kind of challenge would it be to have
There's no
bathrooms
mission.
instead of there, to have them where the awning is, where the pavilion is? Because there's an area in there that's probably storage, that is about the size of 2 bathrooms.
Yes,
And you've got water coming up to the water fountain there.
yes.
And we could probably find some way to set them aside to do eventually. But what kind of because that's like right by our next park too.
Yeah, that was another feedback, was that the restrooms at the pool are too far from the playground. So people would love to see restrooms at the pavilion, much closer to the playground. There is an investment to be made there. If we want to move restrooms to the pavilion, the water hookup, the installation of the fixtures is not overly cost prohibitive. The installation of the sewer to get from there to the nearest sewer line is maybe cost prohibitive. That's a Trevor or Mike question, I guess. If we wanted to install bathrooms at the pavilion. All of our bathrooms are on the level of camp bathrooms. When I say camp bathrooms, I mean like Army Corps of Engineers campground bathrooms. They're unconditioned, they're open air, and they're buggy because they're unconditioned and they're open air. And cleaning them even 2 times a day, I mean, you still end up with buggy bathrooms. We can invest to tighten those things up, make them a little less buggy. They're also outdoor bathrooms, so they're always going to be buggy.
But that's every park.
That's every park.
Yeah.
That's
So
just how parks are.
that
You don't
is-
go to a park and expect an inside level
Yeah.
bathroom.
So that has been most of the feedback about the cleanliness and maintenance of the facilities has been directly related to the bathrooms are gross. The bathrooms are buggy, the bathrooms are unclean, the bathrooms are dark, the bathrooms are hot. With
Oh, boy.
And I
There's no
do-
hot responses
I do
about how the bathrooms
understand part of that being that we do have the accessible playground.
are. Yes.
So there is that level of, you have special needs kids, and you expect a slightly elevated bathroom for that
Yeah.
level. But that is gonna be difficult to maintain or provide even.
Yeah.
So we do have to pay like, is it 300 per month to rent the porta potties in
Right.
winter time?
Right.
So if we didn't have to pay, I mean, that's 5 months out of the year. I mean, it's not a whole bunch, but it's $1,500 that could go towards construction, maintenance. So if we didn't have to pay that, I think it would really help us in that direction.
So in the words of Troy, surely there is a grant out there. We have $1 million
To
park.
build maybe a disabled,
Yeah,
or
an
whatever the term
yes,
is,
an
you know,
accessible
bathroom.
Handicap
bathroom.
accessible bathroom. We have $1 million park and we're using an outhouse and,
It's fair enough.
Tied to handicap or tied to something
If
like
you
that?
tie it to being ADA
Yeah,
compatible.
that'll get some attention.
All right.
So the right people to research.
We also, we're gonna have them add the restrooms to the bug spray routine. So that should hopefully help. That'd be easy, now we have bug control, we must just have to do
Smack
it.
them up.
Turbo.
Troy mentioned bathrooms as was that your only comment?
That was my only comment, because that was the only thing that I saw that was continual.
Is there somebody that researches grants on staff?
Stuff look out for them, but no, we don't have a grant research yet. I can write them,
Just curious.
Jim would rather tied up to find them, but as soon as someone brings them to me, I'll write
I
them.
think that's a great idea.
Yeah, I don't care to write them at all.
we do have a new grant person on the board for Willard's Children's Charitable Fund. We just brought a new person on the board not very long ago. That's one of her specialties is grant writing.
All right, is there anything else for community priorities?
So there are some very low-hanging fruit that are, that could maybe make someone's day. One of those is the mulch pit that is behind the rec center. I personally would love to see that gone. I don't have any equipment to move that. I have to borrow that from Public Works, and Public Works is also a very busy department. So I can rent equipment to do that. There's substantial costs associated with that. But I also would like to see that gone just because I too agree it's an eyesore, and that's a very low-hanging fruit that we could accomplish in a couple of weeks with appropriate equipment and staff. And that was a safety feedback. Off-leash dogs at the park is a safety feedback. That's an enforcement issue. There's an ordinance that requires dogs to be on a leash. And it's, people following the rules. There was some interesting feedback on some dissatisfied answers about safety, amenities. Again, bathrooms came up. You're joking, amenities? That was an interesting comment.
That's the one where
That's the one everyone's chuckling at. Yes.
I just think you should have a meeting there next time.
Yeah, that's a good one. Bathrooms.
restroom would be a nice touch.
Yeah. So, as far as maintenance, again, the mulch pit, Somebody said the baseball fields are unused, somebody also said the baseball fields need to be better maintained. So it's an even Steven on that, and Joyce, we got a tiebreaker, let's bulldoze them in. Just kidding, Joyce. I like to pick on you sometimes.
That's right.
Accessibility, this is another bit of low-hanging fruit. I reached out to our insurance company. It's rec center, fitness center, 24 hours. They have sent it to the underwriters to see what that would do to our insurance. We already, when Cox Health had the fitness center, we already had a 24-hour fitness. All we would need to do would be add those mag locks, those time locks back to the outside door. Voila, now we can continue to offer that service without incurring the staffing costs because, yeah, whatever.
Do we have cameras in there that record?
We have not enough.
I would not advocate keeping that open 24 hours without recording cameras.
Yes. Cameras are in our capital improvement plan for the rec center
Didn't that
because
come about after the vandalism?
it did come about after the vandalism. So we do have cameras in our capital improvement plan to better monitor and then address those issues. Ask for improvements people would like to see. Again, some low-hanging fruit. The mulch pit, cut down the dead trees. Some of those dead trees I would love very much to cut down, but Missouri Department of Conservation said do not cut those down until after the bats are done hibernating, living in them, or whatever it is that they're doing. The sidewalks at the park, we have that on the plan to repair. As soon as our electrical upgrade gets finished, we'll have Public Works come out and hot patch that asphalt. Those sidewalks are getting smooth again.
I'm hearing some really great answers to these. Are you gonna let the public know this stuff?
Once we accomplish any of these things, yes.
Well, I mean, like the bat thing, and you can't cut the tree, I mean, that makes sense, but I don't know that if I'm just complaining, you know?
Yeah. That, I think, falls back to marketing.
That would be an excellent job for the PIO.
And go.
That's something we've been, we got some
tasked with
feedback
the
from
job.
board,
Yes.
sewer board last night, kind of along those lines, like when you're doing something or planning to do something, just talk about it. So that's something Rebecca and I, we can work with you to get some responses put together to some of this stuff. I think it's similar feedback to what we heard from other areas. We'll help work on that.
Okay.
Along with our indoor pool, I would like an ice hockey rink.
I know.
Someone has a real Yes. I
If we
did.
do a combo, freeze the pool with winter.
It works in the northern states.
There are fish in the rec pond?
There will be soon.
I have seen many people go walking past my house with fishing poles.
I need to teach my kid to fish, so this is great.
There are certainly some now, there will be more soon.
Nice, okay.
The Missouri Department of Conservation is engaged in that process, so.
Tell my kid, he'll be excited.
Yep. Many people, the overwhelming majority of people participate in the youth sports.
Oh, wow.
Almost everyone participates in youth sports.
Well, but that makes sense because did you see the age bracket of the people? Most of them are of the age that would have children in the youth
Yeah.
sports range.
25 to 44.
Yeah.
The mid-30s range, or, yeah.
The feedback on variety and quality of programs, again, most people, there's some feedback about advertising, there's some feedback about same programs over and over. I think maybe Rachel answered this one. couldn't be on teams with friends in Governor Republic. But it is good feedback because there is, the more people complete the survey, the more people are honest in the survey, the more people can help shape our path forward. We got the ice hockey and the roller hockey. Additional programs, ice hockey, that's a stretch for us. Gymnastics and tumbling, coffee time, fishing programs, book clubs, these, what I noticed about these is with the exception of ice hockey or roller hockey, it is all enrichment programs and not athletic programs, which is something that I think is a great idea, and I'm looking forward to hearing the guidance from the board on which ones to go 2 or 3 times that and see if they stick. Overall, the community's feedback has been largely positive with some really easy to solve negatives. So far, we're planning to leave the survey open through Freedom Fest so that we can get a bunch of the people who may not be on Facebook and may not be engaged, that they'll be able to scan the QR code, 30 questions, blah, blah, blah. The park board recommended we incentivize that some way with either a prize, a pool pass, whatever, a raffle. And I think it's a good idea. If a tax increase is necessary, how many people would want to tax us? If you wanted a tax, a lot of people said, yeah.
Did you find it interesting though that they want to maintain our current buildings versus expand into new items?
Yes, the highest priority is expanding recreational programs, which if all we do is sports and summer camp, I get that you would want more options than sports and summer camp. The lowest priority is new park development. Again, that's not surprising to me. We've got 4 great parks. We just need to continue to invest in them, and some of them invest more. This one was the most exciting one that I thought was 55%, almost 55% of people said up to $10 a month. And then, a slightly.
For the sewer increase.
This is not
Sorry,
the
nobody
this
has
is
been
not-
given their tax increase yet.
I'm just checking.
Nobody, 40% said no thank you, and that's fine. And I think one of the comments was, we're already overtaxed. We're moving out of Willard because there's so many taxes here.
So it should be a sales tax, it didn't hurt as bad.
I think people that are willing to take the time to take the survey are probably more likely to be
Yeah, so.
amenable to a tax.
That is true.
Yeah, so the good news is that people are interested in a tax, there's some appetite for that. That information is for y'all to arm wrestle over or whatever.
We have some programs.
But this one was also not shocking.
Actually, yes.
That most people are not interested in giving feedback or their faces to the school. And then these two I thought were also interesting. How do you typically find out these ways? How do you wish you could find out these ways again?
No face-to-face, huh?
Yeah, I think that's the other.
Interestingly, more on the website and emails and get it that way.
Yeah. The local newspaper was a very low response. I think maybe all 5 of those might have been valued. But, yeah. But I think there's a lot of good information there. I hope that you all have constituents. I see people who use the parks. So like everybody I see is somebody who has some level of investment in the Parks and Rec programs because they're either using the park or participating in a program that happens at the park. Meanwhile, you guys all talk to people who are not necessarily at a park. They may be at coffee, they may be wherever they are. But I would be interested to hear if you have heard anything about the parks to give feedback on that is maybe not captured in the survey.
Well, I'll be spending a lot of time with the swim team, so I will be asking lots of parents.
Okay.
Most everything I've heard is usually regarding the pool, you know, the pros and the cons. I mean, obviously, the thing that people love a lot is the pool, and the people that don't have kids hate the pool because of the budget issues, so.
I've heard issues, and I mean, you've already identified them. The sports programs are not the quality, or
Yeah.
I played the same team and where I signed my son up and we had girls on the team because there wasn't enough kids to play. And I mean, to me, if we don't have the participation of the community to run a top-notch program, then, I mean, I just pack the ball up, don't run it. It's, and I'm not saying that my way is always right, but I have
I
heard
would
numerous
almost push,
complaints
I
that
would
way.
kind of push back against that because I have two kids who literally stood out there and did nothing the whole time. But they were so proud of that medal at the end that they wanted to be part of the program. And to say that it's top notch or nothing, I think is to really discount that.
And it's really difficult in today's world with, you know, club ball, AAU, you know, you talk to so many people that, you know, they even speak disparagingly about like the high school because, oh, my high school team's terrible because my AAU team is just unbelievable. And so I know you guys suffer from that same effect.
One of the things that I think really has been detrimental to our sports program, well, there's two things really that I think were detrimental to our sports program. We had a string of turnovers, of staff turnover, to where we could not maintain any kind of programming consistency because we would have a sports coordinator for 6 months until they found a better paying job, and a sports coordinator for 6 months until they found a better paying job. So that like coming in and starting a program, and then coming in 6 months later and starting the program over, and coming in 6 months later and starting the program over. So between 2017 and 2020, I think we had 4 sports coordinators in that 4-year term, and then we had COVID. And sports were hard to run during COVID. And then coming out of COVID, we had another couple of misfires with people that were hired on and were like gung-ho about it, and then we're like, my pay is abysmal, I'm leaving. And we have only recently gotten someone who is committed to say like, I don't work here for the money, I work here for the kids, and I'm gonna be here until 9 o'clock, 3 nights a week, and I'm gonna come in, and I'm gonna do the programs, and I'm gonna be here doing the programs. I'm gonna coach teams. And we're seeing over the last couple of years, our numbers are starting to rebound a little because there is that consistency. And I think that is probably the most critical part of a successful program, is having that consistency. And in the sports side, we just haven't been able to keep that in place.
I'd like you to mention his name because he's
Danny
great.
Danny's great.
And he drives from Aurora. He lives in Aurora. And he just wants to be here. And he's fantastic. And the kids love him, the parents love him. But it's that, you know, it's building that consistency through repetition with like parent groups that, you know, their pre-K kid starts playing and they're like, oh, I love Miss Lexi. And then next year it's like, oh, they love Miss Sydney. And then it's, oh, they love Mr. Mike. And then it's, oh, and it's like, okay, they don't even know who's going to show up, so they're not interested. They're just going to go somewhere that has some program consistency. And we're kind of rebuilding that. We're working on rebuilding that, and it's a slow process because It doesn't take very long to learn to lose your customer's trust, but it takes a lot of time to gain it back. So, and I think we're kind of fighting that uphill battle right now with some of that, so. I agree with Fred that there is top notch and there's rec level and then there's like almost to rec level, and I think we're almost to consistent rec level. You know, we have that potential to really grow into that rec space. And the bumps and bruises that we take along the way of like not having enough kids signed up for a program and having to cancel it, and not having enough coaches signed up for a program and have to delay because we have to ask for coaches and we have to call every parent on a team and say, hey, can you coach this team? No, you can't. Okay.
Coaches, okay. I work with 3 guys, all in their early 20s. They've been coaching rec ball next to the logo since they're 18. They're 22, 23 now. Why can't we do something like that on kids from high school?
Are they paid?
I'm not sure if they are or not, but I know one is, he does it because he loves playing ball
Yeah.
and he loves kids.
Yeah, so high school kids that can coach are great, but they have to do it. So like, they have to
I mean, you
want
gotta
to.
find the right kids. I mean,
Yeah.
he's going to college too,
Yeah.
still coaching.
Yeah, and when we can get some of those kids, like when I started in Willard, we had 4 or 5 baseball kids that coached. We had 4 or 5 baseball kids that coached. We had 3 or 4 soccer kids that coached in rec. And
Well, I know
The
with
engagement
this,
piece is
we can
missing.
work with the schools because they have to have so many volunteers for A+, they have to have, for National Honor
So
Society,
just
so
write
like
it
these
down,
are great
A+
opportunities for
program.
them to be like, oh, well here, you can do some volunteer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's funny to think that, I was just writing it down in my notes and bring it up.
yeah,
That would be a great way to get, but if we can get volunteers, coaches, and get credit for their A+ program, that'd be really good.
yeah.
From my own experience, it's nicer to have the parents help out and do it, but man, that's a challenge. Just
Yeah.
because more and more, it seems like lately, like when I was doing it, it seemed like we had plenty of parents that wanted to coach, but nowadays.
Well, so are we parents now? I don't wanna go down that rabbit hole.
It's
You
tough.
Deal with parents right now,
It's tough.
I'd be in prison.
For all kinds of reasons. and
That is,
Across a lot more things than just
people are
coaching.
entitled now when you.
Oh, yeah, now, yeah, if you miss a call and flag football, then someone's coming out of the bleachers and wants to decapitate you.
Yeah, it is a challenge. We're seeing that. A lot of people who have coached in the past are like, I'm not coaching anymore because, not because of the kids.
The parents.
Because the other parents-
Because of the other parents, and it's,
That's sad.
it's a nationwide epidemic that we talk about on Zoom calls with other parts and rec professionals. It's like, how are you managing your sports league with parents? And it's like, we're struggling because,
I used to coach Mighty Mites, and I had a parents meeting before even the first practice. I said, I'm the coach, you sit down and shut up.
Yeah.
Not every one of your kids are quarterbacks. That's it. If you want your kid on a different team, move on.
yeah.
And another thing that, because my granddaughter plays on a lot of sports, is they're not allowed to talk to the coaches for at least 24 hours after the game.
Yeah, I can see that in writing somewhere, that's a good idea.
Cannot approach them 24 hours after the game until after
Give time to
the
cool
game.
off.
Yeah, that's a great idea. So, all right, do we need to, since we really didn't go into the weeds too much on the budgetary challenges or suggested solutions, since we've kind of reformulated what you guys are gonna be doing, do we need to discuss anything with that since we really didn't
Probably
get into
not.
it?
I think let's give a stab at changing.
Sounds like we need to
and
change
modifying
things
some
before we
things.
worry
Have
about
some
that.
more discussion after that, yeah.
Everybody be yay, nay, okay
Yay.
with that? Head bob,
Don't
okay.
get too excited, Jerry.
All right. And if that's the case, then if we have nothing else, the last item is to adjourn the meeting.
Make a motion to adjourn the meeting.
Second.
Second.
I have a first and a second. All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Aye.
We are adjourned.